Let's get salty!
Everyone, Zeddy here again today with a brand new video, and I wanted to talk about a mechanic in Hearthstone that I feel like doesn't get talked about enough, that is one of the most powerful meta-defining mechanics out there, has led to some of the worst metas of all time, and seems to be being used a lot more lately than we've ever seen before. And the reason I have Joan here is not just because it, like, you know, casts some spells. It's these words: for the rest of the game. Arguably, I would say the most powerful effect in Hearthstone, and I just wanted to go over like the history of it, why I feel like it is something you got to use very sparingly, very carefully, and I just love to hear your guys' take on these effects. And a friendly reminder, we still have our giveaway going on. The winners will be announced on Monday, so just a couple more days to enter for that BlizzCon legendary pack. Like and comment in the video, in the description below. Be subscribed to the channel, you have a chance to win. So yes, for the rest of the game effects, something that wasn't in the original, like, classic Hearthstone. The earliest example, I guess, is Lord Jiraxis, right? Where you would change into Jiraxis. He was a minion back in the day, and you get that new hero power, which is for the rest of the game. The first time it really came into the game, it kind of broke the game. The Caverns Below was, at least, correct me if I'm wrong, the first card that really had for the rest of the game style of effect. Your minions are 5/5, so it didn't even matter if they get hexed or polymorphed. That frog is a 5/5, that sheep is a 5/5, unless you specifically set the stats to be 1/1, like, or one attack with like Aldor Peacekeeper. That was always going to be happening, and it introduced something also into the game that really hadn't been there before, besides for the rest of the game, is a lack of counterplay. These type of effects have zero counterplay for the most part. They're like an aura effect. Once they're live, there is no stopping it. And as a result, when it's something like this, where your minions are 5/5s, and that was just so powerful, it kind of broke the game. There's no way to counteract that other than pure aggression. Kill them before they could do the thing for the rest of the game. And in the latest expansion alone in Titans, we've seen multiple, like I said, Jotun for the rest of the game. Cast this copy of the first spell you draw each turn at enemies. Hasn't been super meta defining yet, but relics are able to use it, and it's a scary effect. They have to think about what they make for basically spells until this card goes to wild, where, you know, they don't think too much about wild implications. But a really key example, a very loved and hated example, is currently Odin. For the rest of the game, after your hero gains armor, they gain that much attack for that turn. Another very controversial card. Some people love it, some people hate it. It's cool that warrior gets that win condition, but there's no way to really interact with it other than, you know, dirty ratting the minion or freezing their face or playing taunts, right? It completely changes the complexion of the game. Right now, Odin is being countered by the fact that Druid is insane, making it a lot harder to play warrior. But overall, it's a very scary effect, and again, we have seen it lately more than ever. Even another example for this expansion, Sargeras. Once you play that card, once you get that portal going, basically it's another for the rest of the game. At the end of your turn, summon 2/3/2 imps. It's another take on it, right? There's no way to interact with it. It is going to happen, and you're gonna have to try and deal with it in some way or another. Again, we've been seeing it pretty lately with Free Spirit and Groovy Cat, giving your hero power effectively for the rest of the game, either +1 attack, giving it armor, and we've seen it in the past with Wildfire as well, something that has been pretty meta-defining at times, but seems to be in the healthier version of all this. And I guess in a similar vein, one of the older, I guess predates Caverns Below, Justicar True Art, giving you that upgraded hero power. Another thing you can't exactly counteract, and certainly had its time in the meta of tank up, rank up, or just spamming dudes or getting that extra heal. It did some pretty good work back in the Grand Tournament. And in Standard alone, we have seen more effects like this lately than ever. Alexandros Mograine dealing 3 damage for the rest of the game. Due Process, one of my most, I just loathe this card. I think it's one of the worst design cards in Hearthstone. For the rest of the game, both players draw an extra card, and if you know how this feels when it's played against you and you're not playing a deck that's very favored into it, it is one of the most hopeless, horrible feelings, which they can also stack. You have Topier, again, another really kind of snowbally for the rest of the game. You gotta deal with infinite 3/3s. Thraxion was put into the core set, which has that. Starlight Root, this card is really never been meta quite yet. Wild players know the Stormwind with the permanent for the rest of your game. your totems have +2 attack, and Inza as well, making your overload cards, no matter basically where, they're always going to cost 1 less. And I guess lastly, a big example, the Jailer. The Jailer has been kind of so problematic that it's been temporarily banned from Standard and Wild. You cannot play this card in any constructed format at the moment, and it has to do with that inevitability, that lack of counterplay is for the rest of the game, everything's immune. What can you do? It's a really powerful effect, or, you know, it could be Bone Lord Frost Whisper, where for the rest of the game, you die in 3 turns, or you manage to kill your opponent, right? So yeah, there's a lot, like more examples lately than in a long time. And for the most part, you'd actually look at these and they're not that bad. And I would agree. I feel like they've learned from it. But the biggest example, and it is a terrifying example of how detrimental for the rest of the game effects can be, all you gotta go do is look at United and Stormwind, where, my goodness, they use that mechanic way too much and without a lot of care. Questlines use this like crazy, and it was, again, one of those things that was just awful. And no Dirty Rat was in Standard throughout the time of questlines, where just a Demon Slayer Kurtrus for the rest of the game. Cards you draw cost 2 less, although, to be fair, the questline rarely got to play this minion. It was just about the initial mana cheat, so not the greatest example. The Hunter quest, where for the rest of the game, these spells you cast refresh your hero power, Ra's Anduin all in 1 card. Again, it's crazy to look back at Stormwind of like how bad it was for a lot. I know there's fans of it, but there's also fans of, you know, well, let's just not go into what people like these days. It could get pretty crazy. There's even fans of Artifact still. Rarin played it yesterday. What's up with that? Mage Head for the rest of your game, you have spell damage +3, although again with this one is more like Enchanter's Flow and Refreshing Spring Water were absolutely cracked. But again, still, these effects have been so powerful at times. I mean, you don't have to look farther than Paladin. For the rest of the game, your Silverhand recruits at +2/+2. Okay, this card never saw Standard play, but I gotta make a joke somewhere, right? Ironically, one of the most balanced quest lines that was pretty good for a little bit was the one that didn't have for the rest of the game effect, Spy Master Scabs. Don't tell Nova, she's not here. But yeah, that was actually one of the more reasonable ones. Again, the busted ones that come up every once in a while, even in Wild still. For the rest of the game, your spells cast twice. Kara summoning that Juggernaut, where the rest of the game you're dealing damage, getting pirates, random weapons. Again, no way to counterplay it. And then, of course, like the most broken card ever in Hearthstone. Should we do that video series again? The most broken card in Hearthstone. We haven't done it in a while. Maybe it's time to revisit that. But regardless, Lightborn Tamsin for the rest of the game, damage you take on your turn damages your opponent instead. So you can see how this style of mechanic in Hearthstone has been, I would say, the most powerful ever. It's not a keyword, but it is something that is repeated throughout Hearthstone history. And most examples of this keyword have either seen meta play or been absolutely insane. I mean, Goru the Might Tree buffed Treants, dude, for 7 mana, and it was a taunt. Absolutely ridiculous. But you see the power level of them, and when you shuffle through, the vast majority of them are pretty recent, although not Dr. Boom. I kind of miss this card. I miss when that was good enough to see play. But yeah, it's been a more recent trend. I'm curious to see if it continues. I'm glad it doesn't seem to be as problematic as Stormwind has been, but it is kind of interesting to see that the lessons from Stormwind for the rest of the game seem to have been learned a little bit lately by not making these effects as powerful and also not having them start your opening hand. My God. Anyways, let me know what you guys think of the rest of the game mechanic in Hearthstone. Are you a fan? Think it should be used increasingly sparingly, or do you think they should do it even more? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I think they're hitting a happier medium, a happier balance, but it is something to absolutely keep our eye on. Anyways, if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Have a great day and stay salty, my friends.